Welcome to the Lake Effect Podcast, shot at downtown Barrie at the Sandbox Center. The Lake Effect Podcast highlights fine home building and cottage building in the Muskoka and Barrie area. Today I have with me Jay Brubacher from SML Contracting. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And we're gonna jump right into the history of your company. What do you guys do? Where are you located? And who do you serve?
All right. SML Contracting. We are located in Huntsville, Ontario. And it's actually a big year for us. We've been in business for 30 years as of this year. I've been with the company for 27 of those years. And so it's quite an accomplishment. We're happy to be at this point. And we serve Muskoka, like the Huntsville lakes, the big three lakes over in Muskoka, Rosso, Joe, all those ones. And then just into the top end of Simcoe County as well.
And your main business is cottage building, right?
Yeah. Waterfront, cottages, boathouses, that stuff. That's our...
So you guys have a capability of operating on the waterfront, dealing with granite, rock, different types of foundation, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially in Muskoka, it's a different animal than Southern Ontario, for example. And over the years, man, we've worked on islands. For a while, we had a fleet of Stanley boats, and so we boat to the islands in the summertime and snowmobile in the wintertime. We kind of got out of that game now, and we're only doing jobs we can drive to in a truck, but it's a challenge. Yeah, bedrock is a challenge. Winter's a challenge, especially this year. Yeah.
So you've left the island construction to some of your contemporaries, so that there's enough work for everybody, which is important, I guess.
That's right. For guys like yourself carrying shower glass across into a boat and then up to an island.
We do it.
It adds more for sure. But yeah, we're a start to finish design build firm. And we, for years and years, it's about the customer, really. It starts with the customer, it finishes with the customer. And, when you think about it, a customer building a cottage like this, it's a huge deal. They think about it for a long time. It's
their lifetime. You're probably hitting them when they have a lifetime of experience at this point, and they've accumulated enough wealth or they've prepared themselves for many years. And then they have to turn over the trust of their one lifetime chance to do something like build a big cottage on a lake, and they've got to turn their trust over to you to get the job done. That must weigh heavy on the decisions you make and the relationships you have with the customers.
It does. We don't hold that lightly, and it's a huge investment, and it can be a daunting process and a scary process building something that big like a cottage. It's a big job, but it's not just one big job. It's 100 small jobs that need to be done right. And one of the things we want to do is we want to hand over a product to a customer at the end that's going to last for years and years and be enjoyable to live in and be durable and enduring.
I think you hit the nail on the head. So just so the viewers know, Jay and I, we know each other a little bit, but we have, specialty people in our company accomplishing the work. We're more responsible for the larger vision, but I empathize. For many years, I was a site supervisor.
Right.
I started with Mattamy Homes when I was 14 years old.
Wow.
And so I watched that company at the time was only doing about 200 houses a year.
Wow.
So even those regular homeowners in a subdivision, it was still their life's concern was their principal residence, right?
Right.
And then you sort of supercharge that, and somebody has 30 or 40 years in an industry, and they've sold their company or whatever. Now that they have money to do this. Yeah. And I can empathize from the other side of things, because for 10 years I sold private jets.
Wow.
And it was I realized it was a recreational business.
Right.
Okay. I also sold airliners and things like that, but that's more like 9 to 5. It's guys making business decisions. But when it came to private jets, it was accumulation of their net worth over a long time period, and that was a simple business because I didn't have to build anything. I just had to locate the right. Yeah. You have to take a vision and take that vision and probably work through architects and engineers in order to express that vision. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. 100 small jobs, not one big job that amounts to a big job that's completing end. So let's jump into some of the pictures you brought, because you brought some great pictures.
Sure.
So this is South Mary Lake's website. I encourage anybody to go to it who's interested in looking for a contractor for their cottage. So it's smlcontracting.com. Yeah. And if you click through it, there's lots of examples of projects that you've done. But let's go to the ones that you want to highlight here.
Yeah, some good eye candy on there for sure.
So here's a slideshow that you've prepared for us of the job. So
Sure.
You, go ahead and narrate and tell me when to switch.
Yeah, so this is a good example of a more traditional Muskoka architecture. You know, the roofs have an actual slope to them. And it's been interesting with the winter that we've had with all the snow. We've been kind of debating in the office, you know, what's better, a traditional sloped roof or a more contemporary, you know, flat roof. You can click to the next one.
So we're looking at this design. It's a very conservative design. Somebody made some conservative design decisions here. I mean, you can have flat roof. You can have you know, ridiculous overhangs. As I was saying, a boss of mine, you know, in the past, Frank Lloyd Wright inspired stuff.
Yeah.
But in this environment, you know, a triangle with a box underneath it is what's going to shed snow, ice, and water. So conservative design decisions, but longevity, I think, is
it's always a blend. You know, it's and this property, it looks, you know, when you're looking at this picture, you're like, that cottage is definitely facing forward, which it is. There are neighbors on both sides. And so for privacy's sake, we put all the glass in the front. And that was also a design decision based on the site. And but no, it's a...
Yeah, you want to let the light in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this is you know, incredible stonework and design decisions here. The giant patio on the back. I mean, go ahead, describe what you did here.
Yeah,
Great trellis.
So this one, you know, I wanted to show you some interesting things. This one's very creative. And again, the site we built this one on, and again, this is an in-house design. The property lines, the setbacks, this is located on a point. You can't tell from this picture, but it's a tight space. And there's water on, you know, almost 4 sides, 3.5 sides. So what's the front of the cottage? Every side's the front. So it's got lots of interesting architecture. And a really neat story about this. I love history, right? And so before we built the new cottage, which is on this land, what was sitting there before was a 100-year-old lodge. And it was, you know, back in the day, it would have been a nice lodge. But when we walked on the property, it was, you know, full of mice and not really good for vacationing anymore.
Time to go.
Yeah. Yep. And so as we worked through the design with the customers, and we were thinking about taking down the lodge, one of the features of the lodge that we really were interested in still was it was made of log, dovetail logs, you know, great craftsmanship from way back. And so we were just thinking, man, it would be a shame to just tear that thing down and throw it all out. Sorry.
So you have it here?
Yeah. Next shot. I brought this because...
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, so what we did, we took the roof off the lodge and then painstakingly separated all of the logs, took them all apart, cleaned 100 years worth of, you know, dirt off of them. And then when we designed the new cottage, we made enough space inside so we could rebuild the dovetail log walls completely inside the new structure. And it was really fun. It was great to have the history. It's also very creative. And
so it's like an homage to the original, you know, structure that was there in the history. And it's funny. Some people appreciate it. Some people just see it for the aesthetic it is. Right? I don't like those people. I get the history part of it.
Yeah.
Right? And you walk in there and you're like, you know, somebody who had no cell phone, who had no car, who had no truck, who had no running water, who had no electricity, who had nothing but hand tools, and nothing but an explanation from their great uncle before he died of a toothache.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they went and they made all these joints and
that's right.
Yeah. And you're like, and you can see the actual work and the person, they might be an anonymous craftsman,
right?
But you're like, somebody at some point sat here for days and carved this out and thought this out and put this together. Yeah. And if you can retain even a portion of it, then it's a continuity of history.
That's right.
Yeah, I get it. And obviously the homeowner got it too, right?
Oh yeah. It was neat to work with people. A great clients on this job were amazing people. We're still friends to this day. And but having a vision for that and embracing that and then allowing us to do it was a real privilege.
Yeah, but it looks like, you know, you guys thought it out. You blended it properly. It looks good with the floor. It matches the floor. Obviously, the assembly, you chose your pieces and, you know, the corners look like tight and straight. I mean, yeah. And I think that would serve an advantage that you guys lean into that. You want to do that kind of stuff or you're willing to do that kind of stuff, especially I would think for people who maybe inherit like a knockdown from their parents or from their grandparents, and they want to retain, like, I know how many, how much memories are tied to some of this for some families.
Yeah.
Because it's the cottage is the family focal point.
Yeah.
Right. And some people, they go off and they suffer whatever it is they have to in order to provide for their families, or operate a family. And then this is the reward.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you're going to tear it down because the building construction is no good, or some of the cottages just are, in Muskoka, 60, 70 years old, they were made. There was an experimental point, I think, in the 70s where you had like aluminum wiring.
Yeah.
They tried to do 24-inch spacing, weird things with insulation. And I'm sure our successors are going to shake their heads at some of the things that we do today. Like
they will,
like the flat roofs with rubber on it.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Okay,
right.
and they'll want to retain something in the history. So the fact that South Mary Lake is willing to lean into that a bit, and not like, if it's doesn't fit our formulaic, these are the type of cottages we build. And if you're not going to build craftsmen from 7,500 square feet from these suppliers, we're not doing it.
That's right.
Like, you guys obviously don't take that attitude, right?
No, it's about the customer, and it's about, we want to build something we're proud of and that we can stand behind, but we want to build something that is also part of their vision. And it's
well, you appear to be accomplishing it. So So this is a whole nother sort of take here. So this is somebody who did want to, obviously, contemporary. Now, I've built stuff like this myself with a roof line that just looks just like that.
Yeah.
It's come a long way from people opening, the books of Frank Lloyd Wright stuff from Arizona.
Yeah.
And make it look like this. To having the technology and the knowledge to do something that really is kind of impractical for our environment, but using technology to make up for those.
That's right.
Yeah, differences.
That's right. Yeah. You're in a cottage like this, there is so much design that goes in and engineering behind the scenes and thoughtfulness to how all the assemblies are so that it does last long term and so it functions the way it should. And I don't know if you've been noticing, Mike, but like 100-year storm events, right? Like if we've had 300-year storm events in the last 3 years, either we're extremely unlucky or we're extremely lucky, or they're happening with more frequency, right?
Yes.
And so like just the idea of a changing climate, and as builders and as tradespeople, not ignoring that, but actually accommodating that and building, to prevent that and to prepare for that. Like that takes up a lot of our thinking and a lot of our time now as we're preparing for jobs. Like, site grading, we have to be much more careful with that, and flashings and insulation and different assemblies, roofing assemblies, and even stonework and caulking and all these things, windows, window glazing. Like you could tell me stories about glass protection so that, UV rays aren't wrecking stuff long term.
From the glass angle, there's a couple things come to mind. First is that it's the environment plays into it for sure. Every year we'll get pictures, usually like a clip of a minute or two from somebody's security camera, and they say, "Oh, your glass failed," and they send a picture, and it'll be a piece of glass blowing up.
Yeah.
Right, like a tempered piece of glass exploding.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, okay, I'll talk to the customer. Okay, well, what was the glass attached to? That glass is not flexible; it can't move, and if something forces metal to the edge of the glass, then it will blow up. That's what it's designed to do. There's a famous expression, glass guys will watch a glass piece explode and they're like, it did its job. It didn't turn into a giant knife that's 2 feet long. It turned into little tiny particles because it was tempered properly. So people are using designs that are really meant for wood, a wood designed deck with a wood designed railing.
That's right.
With newel posts and pickets.
Yeah.
And then they decide that they want, I want to see the lake. I want as little obstruction as possible, but I have to have a guard there, so we're going to go with glass.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So not glass in between wood. We want as much as we can possibly see.
Yeah.
And so we'll do that, and we might even specify the backing so that if somebody runs against that guard, it doesn't fall over, or the kid doesn't go and fall 2 stories down. But they don't change the deck design.
That's right.
And the deck flexes. Mm-hmm. And the picture that they're sending in the winter, this extreme weather that you're describing, really is a dump of snow going and flexing the deck.
Yeah.
And then the posts bending in towards the glass, and metal that's in the supports touching the glass and causing it to blow up.
Yeah, that's right.
The glass is done properly.
Yeah.
The attachment is done properly. The design is done properly of the glass. The mounting and the backing of the glass seal to the deck. The problem is the deck flexes, and you can do that if you have a wooden deck. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? You'll crack a piece of wood. You'll have a split in a piece of wood.
Yeah, big
right?
deal.
Not a blowing up piece of glass. Yeah.
Yeah.
So accommodating for that in design, you can only really. I used to be in aviation.
Right.
And the famous thing in aviation is, when you read accident reports, is like every solution has blood on it.
Right.
Everybody waits until somebody crashes, and then they go look at the crash and say, oh, it's because he didn't put his flaps down at 10 degrees. He put it down at 15 degrees. Okay. Now put something on the dashboard. We won't have that happen again.
Yeah, that's right.
Same thing in construction.
Yeah.
It's I'm sure you have craftsmen that need to pass on their knowledge, but when you're also incorporating these types of designs into an environment where that wouldn't have been done 40, 50 years ago, you have to learn. And then, as you described, the landscape is shifting under your feet because the 100-year storm is now a 3-year storm.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, it's good. And this is, this being our 30th year and the idea of kind of failing uphill, like that's the same, what you're talking about.
I like that expression. Yeah.
Failing uphill. We've over 30 years of lessons learned and continuing to educate ourselves and innovate and grow and not just do status quo. Okay, this is how we always do it. It's like, is there a better way? Does it make sense? Should we do this? What's coming down the tracks? And for the sake of putting out a great product. And I don't know, the changing weather, it doesn't scare me, but it does concern me. And we're going to continue to push our envelope and build things that are going to last as best as we are able and react to it, really.
Yeah, our attitude is the same. I mean, you've met Michael Cadenhead now.
Yeah.
He's been in this business, since before I was walking. And he's got all this experience, and he's focused really, I mean, he's done lots of things, but he's really focused a lot on the high-end cottages and the demands of the customers with wine rooms and interior railings and giant partitions.
That's right.
And not everything has been done before. And so you're learning as you go. Even glass showers, as you see them now, they seem standard because they're in a subdivision house. But 25 years ago, it was an exception to have a glass shower. Yeah. Okay. And today we reviewed some hardware that doesn't really exist in our market, which may in a few years from now. So his attitude is the same. It's funny how like people kind of gravitate towards the same result. He's going to kill me if I get this wrong. Adapt, overcome, improvise. I hope I got that. Michael will slay me if I get that. Adapt, overcome, and improvise. Yeah. Don't give up. Don't imagine that you've seen everything. Don't be arrogant, when you approach something, even if you have, in his case, 40 years experience plus, right? Yeah. Because the customer it's really a balance, and I'm sure that it goes more towards you. Like, we've got to talk with our general contractors and sometimes homeowners who are doing renovations, but you've got to make that whole vision come together and discuss with customers. At what point do you want this design versus the practicality of it? I mean, you must have those conversations with the customers. Yeah, we do. And it's, sometimes the design, and designers are great for this. They'll come up with a wonderful idea that looks good, but, is this long-term durable and can we stand behind this as a company? And so oftentimes it's a bit of a compromise, to come to a. Is it, you find it's a financial compromise or a technical compromise or both?
Usually it's a technical compromise.
Okay.
It's
because at this point you're doing cottages where the financial compromises are kind of left behind for the most part.
Everybody's got a budget and everybody's trying to get to an end number, but sometimes I'm trying to think of a good example of an idea that we've had to rein in to keep it within the realm of the it's not we can do anything. We've done incredible things, but should we? Sometimes it's the should we, right? Or is this necessary? But
and is the boom worth the observation of the boom, right? You walk out, you see something. We have a house in Caledon. We could, at the time I was selling airplanes. That's what I did for a living. But I still had all these skills and connection to the home building business. So I went and I redid my deck. I tore down the deck and decided to do it myself.
Right.
The house that I live in was built by people who are drinking. I'm 100% sure that's the case because we found empty beer bottles and the keys to a 1973 Thunderbird in the insulation in the roof when I had taken it apart.
Yep.
Okay, they were, and when we opened some panels, I actually found bricks that were put in vertically.
Yeah, I had the same contractor. In my attic insulation, I found a bunch of cigarette packs and empties, and I think I found some guitar picks up there.
Interesting. Yeah. It was, my house was built in 1973.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where, I'm sure they were listening to Gordon Lightfoot and, or smoking cigarettes and drinking. So nothing was straight, and I was trying to make the rim board start off with a twisted, trying to straighten it out by the time I built the deck out. And my mother-in-law, who is passed now, but she was alive at the time, I remember thinking to myself, it was like 9 steps up to the deck, and I would make a sub deck with a bench so she could sit and she could rest, or she didn't want to make it all the way to the top.
Right.
Okay. And I made like a grand entrance to the deck that it didn't have before. It was just a straight, really long run of simple, very horrible, steep stairs.
Right.
She was from Alberta. She flew in. She came into the house. I watched her do this. She went up to the sliding door upstairs. She looked out at the deck. She literally went, huh, and walked away.
Crushing. Absolutely crushing.
Yes, lovely lady. I'm sure my wife is going to watch this, and there's better stories I can tell about my mother-in-law. But
yeah,
it's funny. I didn't consult her first.
Right.
I just made something for her.
Right.
And there was all these technical problems to solve.
Yeah.
Was the boom worth the observation of the boom? Right. So yeah.
Right.
So I'm certain that you have a consultation process where you walk through this stuff.
Yeah.
Backwards and forwards to make sure that you're expressing the dreams of the customer.
Yeah. We have a really tight relationship with the customer all the way through the design and through the implementation and on site. And it's like our site supers, they get on first name basis, and, they'll be texting pictures back and forth with the customer. Hey, what do you think about this? Here's an idea. And so it's a really complimentary process that we go through, because we want the customer to be pleased. It's their dream. It's not ours. But we also want to guide them with our knowledge, the knowledge we've assembled over the years of what works and what doesn't. And
I don't know if you feel the same way about the work that you do that I felt about buying airplanes for people, but I knew I would never make enough money to afford a private jet.
Right.
But I could share the experience of people doing this amazing thing. Right, some of them deserve it, some of them don't. But I just had to ride with that.
Yeah.
And some of the customers were just awesome. It was just, they were just like me. They had just put in an 8 instead of a 7 into some combination and landed with the ability to purchase this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was able to share that experience with them, and I never would have got the opportunity without them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
it's a privilege.
Exactly.
It is a privilege to be able to work with great people and build these amazing projects.
So this one here, let's go to the next slide here.
So no, this picture I love because it looks like a 3D rendering, right? Like it looks like a high-end rendering,
almost
but
like
it's
an HDR picture.
Yeah, it's real. And our landscaper on this project, he made our work look great at the end and finished it up really well.
That's key, to stick it out to the point where, like, you can build, and I've experienced this. I did some building in British Columbia.
Yeah.
And I built a custom house on the side of a mountain.
Right.
And the house was okay. The design was reasonable.
Yeah.
I made some errors in the design that I didn't realize until after it was complete.
Right.
My wife, we had big, in BC, a lot of stuff is really big lumber.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with 12 by 12 or 14 by 14.
Right.
My wife said, paint it any color but red. And of course, I chose golden oak with a red tinge, and
right,
3 weeks worth of painting to be stripped, and 3 more weeks to do it again. But the whole thing was not tied together until the grading was done.
Yeah,
and the grading and the steps and the stairs around the house, it just made it was like boom, pop.
Yeah,
right, and it just brought the whole. It's like almost like putting the right set of rims on a car.
Yep,
right.
Yeah.
You can have this car, you put little pizza cutter rims, and you're like, that's a muscle car? No. Yeah. And you put the right set of wheels on it. Yeah. So I think the same with the landscaping.
Yeah.
If you get it tied in correctly. Now, you guys don't do the landscaping, or the stonework. You have somebody. Is it a function of the general contracting, or is it?
Yeah, it's a function of the general contract. I wanted to bring up trades too, because having good trades is key in this business. Yes. And we have 30 employees, and we have a lot of, like, the carpentry, we own that, and we do that. But the like glass guys, for example, I was going to say in our previous little chat, that quite often when we're on site and we're talking about a glass shower, I'll ask the glass guy, the guy who's actually templating, what would you do in this situation? How would you hinge the door? How wide would the door panel be? Where would you, because again, we know what we know as contractors, but then a sub-trade who does nothing but glass or nothing but landscaping or plumbing or whatever it is, like paint professionals, like these people, they've got great expertise, and we don't want to overrule them if they've got something to contribute as well. So it's good to it's great to have an excellent team of sub-trades, and it's also great to listen to them and to work together and collaborate and to come out with a good product. That's for sure.
Okay, so but there's components of the job that you obviously focus on over many years, developing the right knowledge.
Yeah.
There's some things you don't want to sub out, the carpentry being one of them.
Yeah.
And you if you have that many employees, like you build the knowledge base, right?
Yeah. We build a knowledge base, and we've also been building our Rolodex of good trades, ones we really want to work with, like you guys, and
we'll try to stay on it if we can.
Yeah, the Rolodex.
This is you must have put this picture in for me. I mean, that's
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's it's very challenging to get this right, and I'll show you where it is.
Yeah.
Most of it's pretty easy. It's forgiving because you have rail on the top and bottom, which will make up for some stuff, but it's the coordination of all these angles.
Yeah.
Right, getting all those angles right. You look like you got a dado into a split piece of base shoe. I mean, that looks... it's funny. There's aesthetically, there's always this balance. So you've got balances going on in the background where you have timber and you have stone on an interior.
That's right.
But if you get it right, it's like you just get the right. If you overdo it, then it's like you look like you're standing in a comedy club on the wrong side of the wall or something.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, it's the same with glass and railings. Is if you make too much base shoe, too much heavy hardware, and it looks like you're kind of like in an airport or a shopping mall or something. But if you get it right, you just put just the right amount. Now, what they've chosen to do here that you would not see in a commercial application is the handrail on the top being out of wood. You'd see that more in an office, maybe, but you wouldn't see that in like an airport or something like that because it would get damaged too easily.
Yeah, that's right.
So you got the right balance in the glass side of things, the right balance of commercial-ish hardware, but not so much so that it looks like a commercial space.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the wooden handrail warms it up a bit.
Yeah. This is very nice, very, very nice. It looks like, excellent job with the stairs. You got all the little details, with the triangles here, painted triangles and trim along the side. Of course, you're looking to furnish space, then that always ties it together.
Oh,
it's furnished properly, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next slide here. Okay, well, this is pound for pound. You go to AccurateGlassProducts.com and you're going to see, there's a couple thousand pictures. So, like you said, we do it every day. We're doing dozens of showers, right?
Yeah.
Our guys are going to do it, and even custom ones. We're capable of doing, let's say, 12 or 14 in a day, something like that. But every opening is different. That's why it's still a custom product. You cannot walk into Home Depot, buy a panel of glass, and then try and build the house around a 50 square panel of glass. So we template it. Now let's talk about this. This has become popular. I've seen lots of this. I just want a single piece. I want it Spartan.
Yeah.
I would say 50% of the time we get a call back to put a door.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happens is practicality trumps aesthetic.
Yeah.
And the reason it's not practical is because if you get into the shower and you've got 101 degree water coming at you, and you step away from the shower head, you're cold.
Yeah.
And that's why people want doors. They want doors to contain the steam, contain the heat. This is not going to contain anything. But it looks great.
It does look good. Yeah.
So my only thought is maybe is that for anybody who's watching this, who's building a bathroom, or if they're going to have South America, build a cottage for them, which is the idea here, okay, is make sure you put backing in this outside wall. Then no problem. You want a door, we'll add a door. We'll just hinge it off the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than having to go through the expense of tearing down everything and putting in a header shower or something like that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. It's like, what do they call it? It's like pre-wiring, pre-provision.
Yeah. I know what you're thinking.
Yeah. There's a word for it. It's like pre-preparation.
Yeah. A shower door contingency hidden in the wall.
Yeah. Just put some blocking in there and we're good. Then you can call us later. We can pop a door on. We can hinge it off the wall. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one here. That looks like a fun place to drink.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the 1858 Caesar Bar. I don't know if you've been to the one in Collingwood. Have you?
No, I haven't. I've heard of the Caesar Bar, which I think might say it like right here under 1858.
Yeah. So it's a franchise. There's one in Collingwood, and then there's one in not Wasaga Beach, overpass Stainer.
Cale, you're a young man with a clean liver. Have you been to one of these places? No?
Anyway, they specialize in Caesars. This isn't an advert for them, but it kind of is. They have like 50 different Caesars on the menu, and they have food, and it's fantastic. And again, we have this customer, and their son got a franchise and wanted to build one in Huntsville. And so for us, it was an amazing project.
So this is Huntsville?
This is Huntsville. This is downtown, right by the swing bridge. And he bought this piece of this building right here, which is a historic building for Huntsville. It's called the Willgrass, and it's over 100 years old. It's had various occupants through its time. And then when we got the opportunity to turn it into the Caesar Bar, it was extremely challenging and also an amazingly creative process and really fun. And it turned out great. They opened for business last summer. We were in there this past week doing a few little fix-ups after, of course, they ran wide open for the season last year. And so we had to do some, a few things to get it up to.
So why, this is an easy, open-ended question. Anybody who's watching this far into the podcast, they want to know what you're up to and why, and what your limits of your capability are.
Right.
This is a commercial job to a certain degree, but it's also like a historical restoration / commercial job.
Right.
It also, obviously, if you're making something visually appealing, commercial can be very squares and boxes.
Yeah.
Where you need, home building is more artistic.
Yeah, it's more creative.
So this is a combination of all three.
Yeah.
How often do you guys do this? Is this part of what South Mary Lake wants to do?
Yeah. We definitely, like when we were presented with the opportunity to do this project, at first I said, no, there's no way, because the timeline was very short. This piece of land is terrible to work on. There's no space. There's no parking. There's nowhere to put a dumpster. There are so many difficulties with the land itself. We had to, what you can't see here, behind the patio, there's actually a tunnel that goes underground and connects to a garage that's split in half. Like, it is crazy. We blasted the entire hillside out and then built that tunnel and then built the patio in front of it and all the servicing. And there were times when we had Main Street shut down because we had a pump truck set up on Main Street pumping concrete. It was just the most complicated, difficult site to actually work on.
I imagine there's some general contractors who would turn this down because of the oddities in the design.
Yeah.
And the trying to retain the original building.
Yeah. And I said no for about 5 minutes, and then I said absolutely, heck yeah, because of just the creative nature of it and the chance to. And again, if we didn't have a good client, I would not say yes. But we had a great client, and so that made a huge difference. He was all in for the process, and he knew that we were all in for him as well. And even the silo feature on the far end of the patio, you see that.
Yep. That I've seen this. This is sort of. It's not common.
No.
But it's very unique. But people are like occasionally doing it. I see people making gazebos out of the tops.
Yeah. So that silo, it was on the property beforehand. And so when we started like blowing up the hillside, we took the silo off site and then we brought it back at the end. And then we cut the hole through and put in a bar top and modded the silo to fit the outside patio use. And then, you've got a ton of glass railing and the lighting and on it goes. There's in the landscaping, it was just a really fantastic project to work on because of the creative nature of it and the difficulty. And again, we could build a Canadian Tire store or a Staples store. No offense to them, but there's lots here to keep us interested, and lots of challenge. Challenge isn't bad. Challenge is good.
Yeah, I did notice about the glass. It's kind of an odd. You wouldn't see that very often. Where it looks like the glass itself is supported on the spigots, which are those little mini post things, but behind that there's a rail, and I'm going to guess that was a code requirement.
Yeah, that's for accessibility. And so this whole feature is a wheelchair ramp. And so on the back side, we've got a handrail, and on the front side, we've got the guard. But yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, that can be challenging cutting through, because you're drilling into natural stone.
Yeah.
Which isn't the same. Like you'll never get the same hardness twice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a wonderful patio. I'd recommend to anybody, like, come up, sit on the patio. It's a great place to be in the summertime.
Yeah, it's very nice. And like you said, the retention of the original building, it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So did you build that bridge?
Why this? So one thing I want to mention when we were talking about this conversation was the idea of giving back. And as small business owners, like, I'm sure you guys do stuff, small business does a lot as far as caring for our communities, bridging gaps between what does the government offer, what are those things, like, we invest in some junior sports things up in Huntsville and in Muskoka, because these, teams, they need a bit of support. And so we help with that. There's a crisis pregnancy center up in Muskoka that needs help. It's not government funded. They do great work. And so there's a bunch of business people in the Muskoka area and Simcoe who help to make that thing happen. And I'd say that's one of the things I'm really proud of what SML does, is we support these endeavors that help the community.
So this looks a little bit far afield.
Yeah, so that was local stuff I was talking about.
Yeah.
An extension of that is global. Like, there are needs globally, which are staggering. We all know that. And through the course of my career, I've gotten into helping in the country of Papua New Guinea, which I don't know if you know where that is.
I do.
Yeah.
I have a friend who is a helicopter.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So just north of Australia. It's a third world country. It's rugged, remote.
Yeah. If you take a direct flight, you'll be there in 4 days.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's a lovely place, and it's a very harsh tropical environment. And so
there was another picture here too.
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah. So that the story of the truck, we could go down a rabbit hole for the next hour and talk about everything that happens in New Guinea but our friends, I have some friends, and they work in a cluster of villages, and to access the villages from the town we're in takes about 4 hours by truck. The road's terrible. There are 16 of those very sketchy bridges and river crossings. And then once you get to the river, and that's this picture, all of the supplies that we were carrying out on this load, you've got building supplies, you got stuff for education, you got healthcare stuff. It's funny, there's a lawnmower, that orange thing. And
oh yeah, I see it.
So out in the village, and I'm talking tropical village, like National Geographic, like houses built on stilts, keeping the grass down keeps the snakes away and the spiders and the cockroaches. And there's a grass airstrip, you're an aviation guy, out in the village.
Yeah.
And if they get behind on their grass maintenance, like cutting the airstrip, very quickly the plane can't land. And if the plane can't land, like, that's one of the main accesses in and out for medical emergencies. If there's a woman in the tribe who's having a trouble delivering a baby, the plane can come pick her up.
Yeah, you call it ambulance there, and what you get is a Kodiak.
Yeah, exactly.
Sells them, actually.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
nobody's going to take their $4 million airplane and beat up by overgrowth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this day we got down to the river, we unloaded this big load of supplies, and then guys from the village came out. They're another 4 hours on the river to get here, and then they bring these long dugout canoes with motors on the back. And so we rafted these boats together and then loaded a massive pile of supplies on top of the boats, and out they go to the village. And that keeps, the clinic and the school and all of these non-government supported entities going in the village for people who need help. And so, New Guinea itself, like, that's countrywide. Government services are few and far between, and the people are good people, but they need a hand. And so through, Friends in Action, the organization that I work with when I go, we've been able to do a lot of work in a lot of places for, so it's interesting.
It feels like, helping your neighbor.
Yeah.
Except your neighbor is, a little bit further away.
Yeah. And has a machete.
It has. Hopefully directed in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I assume that's the same operation there.
Yeah. This is our home base. We work out of when we're in country, we work out of this compound in a small town on the coast. And so this was 2022.
Very organized.
Yeah, and that was my daughter. We got there. We had a bunch of work to do, so I taught her to drive the loader. And then this is a wood shop we have at that base. And
is that you?
That's me, and my son is in the background. It's great because I've been doing this for about 20 years back and forth, and I've got friends there. The mission we work with, we've helped to provide education and post-secondary for these local people. And now some of the kids that, like, they were kids when I started going, are through Teachers College and are teaching school to help the education system go the right direction. We've got twice a week, people from our base go to the local prison because, as you can imagine, prisons there aren't same as prisons here. They don't have the amenities. You're not watching satellite TV.
I've been to, I was at a prison once where it was 6 guard towers, about a 15-foot block wall.
Yep.
And the prisoners were inside, and they're in tents.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And the food is basically literally dumped over the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not, humans can be very inhumane at times. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, we've been able to help out there as well, go and provide medical supplies and food and encourage these guys. It's interesting. You have a chat with somebody in there, and I was asking this one guy, do you want to be in here? And he's like, of course not. I want to be back in my village. I made huge mistakes to get here. And
so this, for your customers, the purpose of showing these pictures, I would assume, is to show that what your drive is and what your sense of purpose is, and they're not, they're paying you for for your services, and you're driven to do things like this as opposed to just buy another Bentley or whatever it is.
Yeah. As a part of our company DNA is to help the people around us, like in our own company, like a lot of the things we do, which you're a small business owner. There are ways that you help your staff, which aren't on record, and are a huge encouragement to them and a sacrifice, right? And then ways you help your community. And it's part of our DNA, and it's part of our character. And the heart that we put into that is also the heart we put into serving our customers and doing right by them, even when they're not watching. It's, if anything, I want customers to know that because we're on site, they don't have to be on site.
You want an honorable MO.
Yeah. They don't have to look over our shoulder. They can trust us 100%. We have their back.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a feeling of comfort given the number of, the dollar amounts and the zeros attached to the projects that you're doing.
Yeah.
You have to be, accountable to your customer. But if you're accountable to yourself, then you're also accountable to your employees and to your customer.
Yeah.
And what I see here, we do maybe not something that extreme.
Right.
My partner Gus, he sponsored hockey teams.
Yeah.
Hockey teams. We sponsored a young lady. One of our customers has a go-kart, and we sponsored her go-kart.
Yep.
There's a young lady who does dance. We sponsored her.
Yep.
The main thing for me, as the owner that I focused on is the cadet groups.
Yep.
Cadet troops, corps, cadet corps. Yeah. So we sponsored last year. We actually did a significant sponsorship of the Cadet Corps in Alliston.
Oh, good.
It's they're helping young people who may not have the opportunity to get off their phone, get out of the basement, experience something, do an activity, put on a uniform, feel pride, feel a sense of organization, understand how to respect other people, and earn respect. And so that's what we've chosen. But I agree with you. If you don't do that stuff, then sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're like, yeah, I'm succeeding, but for to what end?
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah.
But
if you have the opportunity to give back, and give somebody else hope that, if they live a respectful lifestyle, that some give them the help to let them know that there's a purpose and there's a gain in living respectfully and respecting the other people that are around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is great. I mean, it also looks like fun just by chance. I mean, you're pretty cool old truck. You got a little. It's like you're milling there. Is that what you're doing?
We're actually building a set of stairs, and the wood that we're using is ipe. You know ipe, right?
No,
it's like a tropical hardwood.
Okay,
they use it here for decking. but it doesn't float, it doesn't rot, it's super heavy, super dense, and the termites don't eat it. That's why we use it there.
So it's like almost like fir, almost.
No, it's more like mahogany.
Mahogany,
being the mahogany family, very dense. But yeah, we have this wood shop, and so we build all kinds of furniture. And over the years, I've got some good friends, local guys who work in the wood shop, and been able to teach them how to make all kinds of neat stuff, and stuff that serves the community, things you can't buy there because a third world country, so you kind of have to make it. That big truck I showed you, we actually have relationships with the landowners, and so a landowner up in the mountains, he'll cut down this giant Quila tree or an ipe, and then he'll mill it with a chainsaw into movable pieces.
Yes.
Load it in the truck, pay him top dollar for it, bring it back. We have a sawmill on base, and then we resaw it into whatever sizes we need. And sometimes we sell it, sometimes we use it for our own purposes, but it's all part of what we do to keep things going over there.
So the challenges of building the most expensive, largest, most complex, most demanding designs in Muskoka is not enough for you.
Yeah.
You've got to go.
You know what? And right there in the shade, I guarantee if we check the thermometer, it's like 37 Celsius in the shade. It is so hot. It's hot, but it's, I don't know, it's the last, so.
It makes our 100-year weather look like it's, just a passing breeze, right?
Yeah, it does. It's interesting though, the things you learn there, the ideas of how to make something durable in that climate, I bring those home, and there are, it's, it's great.
Apply, it's life experience, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
I've done something, it's been many years, but a friend of mine has a place in Madagascar. He's got a factory.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Actually, so the first factory that I ever saw, where I was involved with the operation of a factory, was in Madagascar.
Wow.
In the late 90s, early 2000s. And the funny thing is, it was not that much different than Accurate Glass. It was like 40, 50 people in a large building that was converted. There was problems and issues with the building. They were milling stone, which is not much different than glass. The byproduct is kind of the same. It's sediment. It's non-toxic, but there's you have to do something. You don't want to clog your pipes and that kind of stuff. And of course, the city doesn't want it. Watch some of the resolutions that these guys had to just small issues like, got something that's 2 feet square that has to fit through a doorway that's 1 foot square.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how do you take the wall down, or what do you do?
Right.
So there's people, the less resources people have, sometimes the more creative they will be with the resolutions.
Yeah. The solutions are better.
Yes. Well, some of the resolutions would have a Canadian safety guy, like ready to shut it all down.
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's they would rather feed 20 people and let one person stub their toe than have nobody stub their toe.
That's right.
Yeah. So
that's right.
Yeah, you get to see people operating under a different constraint.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely probably makes you a better business manager.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you sold the Kodiak, that airplane.
I have a very good friend who Isaac from Aviation Unlimited.
Okay.
They're based out of Oshawa.
Yep.
And they're the dealer for Kodiak airplanes. Kodiak is very similar to the more well-known Cessna Caravan, which I've actually flown. It's a single-engine turboprop.
Yep.
But in Alaska, Yukon, Northwest Territories, and I think FedEx also used them for short-haul stuff.
Yeah.
But the Kodiak was kind of like it's very similar, but they had to do something to replace the Beaver.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Beavers, yes, I think Viking Air is making a few Beavers here and there.
Yeah.
And the Twin Otters sometimes are too big. And the Kodiak is I from my friends who are flying in Papua New Guinea, I know the Kodiak is very well used, well respected, and pervasive airplane in that environment.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Have you been on one?
I have. Yeah.
Oh, really?
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great. A lot.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. There's actually a great YouTube channel, a YouTuber friend of mine, Ryan. He is missionarybushpilot.com. You can find him that.
I think I've seen it.
Yeah, he's got lots of good videos. And like those airstrips, I've landed on some of those airstrips where you buzz the strip first to get all the pigs and stray dogs off of it.
Yes.
And you do your landing, and Yeah, it's it's good flying.
Yeah, that can be fun stuff. I mean, I did the same stuff, except when I was learning how to fly, I was learning in British Columbia.
Yep.
In a Cessna 170.
Yeah.
Which is it was basically a 3-person tail dragger.
Yeah.
And there was little decommissioned strips that we would fly into legally.
Yeah.
But usually there would be cows grazing, and you'd have to scare them off a little bit, fly over a couple times. A Kodiak would have been like an amazing dream to have that amount of power and
the payload.
The cockpit. It's like a rig, like a truck, inside the cockpit's beautiful. Yeah, very, very nice airplane.
A great airplane.
Yeah, there's where my place is. I'm in Honey Harbor.
Yep.
And I keep bugging Isaac to tell me who it is. There's somebody who flies up to their cottage every Friday in a Kodiak, in a blue and white Kodiak.
Yeah.
And they fly like 500, 600 feet off the ground, and he goes right over my place. So if I'm there early enough on Friday, I'm just like waving, watching every Friday, watch the guy flying up. I don't know where he's going or who he is, but flies right over my place every time.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So have you ever built any places with accessibility docks, for float planes or helicopter pads or anything like? Have you ever gotten into that in any way?
Yeah. We built some. We built a couple cottages on the top end of Lake Joe and Lake Rosso, and actually we are working with a client right now who's got the aerodrome classification on their waterfront.
Excellent.
On one of the Huntsville lakes.
Historical one or a fresh one?
It's historical.
Oh, excellent. Even better. Even better.
Yeah, even better.
Are they a pilot?
They are.
Excellent.
Yeah, 2 pilots in the family.
Yes.
And so we are going to be doing an overhaul to it's like a boathouse / hangar. And so that's a neat project as well. But yeah, it's not that common. It's not that common, but it's good work for sure.
Okay, that's my place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, you will not be doing construction there, apparently.
We'll have to get a Stanley boat. That's incredible.
Yeah, so there's the main cottage, which is kind of obscured by the trees, but that building is about 70 years old, something like that. Yeah. So I haven't kind of straightened out the history. So here's what I know. It's Orville and Wilbur Wright.
Yep.
One of them died, and I believe it was Orville, kind of retreated a little bit, but he was like the Elon Musk of his day.
Right.
Okay, very wealthy, very famous, and he had to get away. So what they would do is they take a train up to Midland, they jump on their boat, and they drive out to Lambert Island.
Wow.
Which is near Cognachine, just outside of Honey Harbor.
Yeah.
And it's a sizable island. I think I'd like to guess maybe 10 or 15 acres. Okay. And they bring a cow. So they'd have milk all summer.
Yep.
And he built like a little railway for luggage and stuff. And he was
an inventor.
Yeah, a technical guy. So he'd make from parts that were lying around. He'd make machines and things like that. His boat still survives.
Yeah.
I think it's actually part of the Lake Joseph historical collection or something like that.
Yeah.
But I know his boat is called Kitty Hawk. Still roams the Muskoka waters.
Right.
Okay, and he used to do this every summer for about 20 years.
Yeah.
There was a guy who owned my island who was somehow, I think he might have been like a mechanic in the war. And so what he did is he built this like shed that was like a barn, the one I showed you a picture of.
Yeah.
And they had a beam down the center, and they would bring float planes up on the edge of my place.
Yeah.
They'd take the motors off, and they'd bring the motors inside, and they'd work on them.
Oh, right.
There's an application he made to the city that the city denied for him to expand the place because he wanted to go over the water.
Yep.
And they denied his application because of oil in the water.
Right, of course.
Okay. And so what happened is he said, screw it. He decided to get out of business, and he turned that shop, which is now my bunkie, into his house.
Wow.
Okay. And he redid it, I think, in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then he built the other cottage beside it, and he tricked his wife, and he turned the house into a storage unit for he bought all kinds of surplus airplane parts.
Oh, wow.
And he created a magazine, kind of like Princess Auto's catalog, and he sold aviation parts through a catalog.
Wow.
But when the ice was in, they didn't have scoots back then, so his neighbor, who's also got a 100-year-old cottage right across from us, they would tie a line between the two, and he would send the parts in a basket, and the guy would take it to the post office and mail it.
Yep.
And he'd give him a piece of the action. So my cottage was a warehouse for aviation parts, and my bunkie was a repair shop for aero engines. And I think that one of his customers was Orville Wright, the guy who invented flying.
So did you know that when you bought the place?
No, there was somebody said something about it, and they're like, "Oh, this used to be Orville Wright's place or something." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
way.
yeah. And then, as time goes on, there's a guy who's, I think he's I don't know how old he is, but he's been cottaging. He's from Michigan. He's been cottaging right beside us. I think he said since 1961.
Wow.
Okay, so he's an older gentleman, right?
Yeah.
But I pulled up to his dock. I only met him during COVID because we bought the place during COVID.
Yeah.
And he told me about this guy, Horace Day. That's why our place called Day's Island, and some of this history. And he just like rambled off this history for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, I don't have a notepad, and I'm holding the dock, and I'm just trying to remember everything that he said.
Yeah.
And of course, then he went home for the summer, and I haven't seen him since last year.
Right.
Right. So I'm sure there's some older people in the area who have some kind of, it's at this point, it's not recorded history.
No.
Lambert Island is, though. There's a book out there called Kitty Hawk to Kitty Hawk, and I bought a copy of it.
Yeah.
It's hard to find, but it's out there, and it tells basically the story and has correspondence between the Wrights.
Yeah.
Like, and an explanation of how they spent their summers and that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not like a person who's like attracted to fame and like whatever, right? But this is the guy who invented flying. Like, he invented aviation and flying, and I'm into flying and aviation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, it's so nice that a place like that could go to someone who can appreciate it. The last thing you'd want is somebody at that place who thinks it's a pain that, these buildings, and they just want to tear them down and not appreciate the history and the story behind it.
Absolutely. I mean, the main cottage, eventually, I think I got to do something with it. But the bunkie, I've done whatever I can to protect it. And if there's any rotten wood, replace it. Yeah. And try and maintain the history. And I showed you the pictures of the interior. Keep it tasteful, right?
Yeah, great spot.
Yeah. So it's hopefully at some point we'll have you up there. So let's let the customers know if they've watched this podcast to this point, they're going to want information about you. They're going to want to talk to you about their build. Maybe show you some pictures of their lots or put proposals in front of you. What is the best way to get a hold of you?
If you go to our website.
Okay, which we'll do right now.
Yeah.
So we'll do it the way everybody else is going to do it.
Yeah.
They're going to go to Google. They're going to put in South Mary Lake, right?
Yep.
Okay, SML Contracting comes up. The website's www.smlcontracting.com.
Yeah.
And I'm going to assume you have a contact button.
Yeah, there's a contact button.
Okay.
Yeah, in the top corner.
Top corner.
Hit that.
And there you go.
Contact on the far side. You hit that, and then there's an opportunity to reach out to us via email, and we will connect with you.
Okay. And the first point of contact, if they pick up the phone, who would they ask for?
You can ask for Jay.
Yeah.
I do pick up the phone still at the office on a daily basis, and I pick up the emails from our contact page, so you'll get me.
Awesome. Okay. And thank you very much for being on.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're obviously we're a vendor to you.
Yeah.
And we appreciate your business.
Yeah.
We try to perform as professionally as possible. So if you're picking guys like us, I know that you're also picking your other trades, appropriately that meet a certain standard.
Yep.
And I wish you best of luck in the upcoming season here. And thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. This has been a great conversation, and it's been nice to get to know you more and see your shop this morning too. It's great facility and great company. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Our pleasure. Okay, Cale, I think that's a wrap. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. That's I'm Mike Weiner from the Lake Effect podcast from Accurate Glass, shooting here at the Sandbox Center in downtown Barrie. If you want to know more about fine home building and general contracting in the Muskoka Barrie area, look us up. Just go to YouTube, to the search page, and find us again. You found us once, so you'll find us again at Lake Effect Podcast.